From MTN Sports, welcome to Grizzly Insider, sponsored by Albertsons Safeway.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Grizzly Insider here on the Montana Television Network. Alongside the voice of the Grizz, Riley Corcoran, I'm Kyle Hansen, and we are back to recap this past weekend's Brawl of the Wild basketball games in Missoula. The Lady Grizz falling by 1 point, and of course the Grizzly men getting the big win over Montana State by 7. So Riley, just kind of your first thoughts on that men's game. I mean, what a crowd, what an atmosphere, and of course what a big win for Montana.
It was amazing, Kyle. It's everything you love about college basketball. The fans always show out for that game, nearly 6,000 in attendance, and I thought the team played really well off of it. That atmosphere and to be so composed and not have a turnover in the second half, only 5 in the entire game. The Grizzlies looked like an experienced veteran group that came together, and that's a big reason why they came out on top of both games. Absolute thrillers in Dahlberg.
100%. Well, you look at the end of the first half of that men's game, right? That's where it felt like Montana was starting to take off, and it was a lot of these guys, which was the talk ahead, who hadn't played in this game before. You think of that dunk by Austin Patterson, Kai Johnson just going off, and this one getting back in the starting lineup, and then of course Joe Pridgeon in the second half really kind of solidifying what's been a great year for him and his year as a Grizzly. But what stood out to you in that first half as Montana was able to build a lead there?
Crisp execution, number one, and really the shot selection for the Grizzlies, I thought, because Montana State really good at defending the perimeter. Montana had fallen in love with the three-point shot the last couple of weeks. They went inside. They really attacked the switching scheme that MSU has defensively, and great point on you on the newcomers, because Austin Patterson got involved, and you love to see guys that had been playing college basketball for a long time. Over 100 games for all of these seniors that contribute for Montana, yet they've never experienced something like they did last Saturday, and it's really cool to sit courtside and to see guys maybe play outside of their body a little bit. Kai Johnson, 9 total points his previous 3 games, so to say it would be a little bit of a surprise he erupted for 25, yeah, I would say so, but the Grizzlies certainly needed it, and he showed up when the lights were bright.
And found a way to hold on down the stretch, too, because Montana State obviously comes back in, but the Grizzlies still get the win by 7 points. Now, switching gears to the Lady Grizz game, it was kind of like the men's game, just the opposite, right? Because Montana State, #1 team in the Big Sky Conference, builds that huge lead, and, using that defensive pressure, causing turnovers, and then showing their depth as well. But then Avery Waddington, the freshman coming out of nowhere, Tyler McCall making some big shots. You have to credit the Lady Grizz for sticking around. It's been kind of a wild few weeks for them, but they were able to at least come back, and, they don't want to lose that game, but losing by 1 and coming back is pretty impressive.
It really is, and I know in this game there's no moral victories, but my goodness, the Lady Grizz, they were so close and played so well. And I think really with the turmoil that had happened the last couple of weeks, this was the first time that acting coach Nate Harris was able to have practice and have the team work on maybe some concepts, and knowing Tricia Binford well, they were dialed in, and that pressure is no joke for Montana State. And the Bobcats and Coach Binford have a very special team this year, but I think that we have seen maybe what the Lady Grizz are capable of, and they have really turned a corner despite in a loss. They move forward going, hey, we know we can compete with the best despite not going our way last Saturday. So I do think good signs for that program, and Dahlberg came to life for them. The sixth man advantage really kind of helped out and just created a great atmosphere, came down to the final shot.
When you look at the Lady Grizz, talent has never been a question. It's just about how to utilize that talent, and you kind of saw everybody playing to their strengths in that game, where you saw the freshman Avery Waddington. You saw her when she came in, and you're just let her go, right? There's a lot of talent there, and you've seen some of these seniors like Matt Koenig running the floor, Tyler McCall, like we mentioned. You look MJ Bruno as kind of like your defensive stalwart, Danny Barch, who pretty much just does everything. You just had to see them all kind of slide into roles, and they were all doing that part, and it almost resulted in a big win.
Big time, and Danny Barch with her rebounding front, I mean, just that toughness that she brings. I think the rest of the team kind of follows suit. Matt Koenig might not have had the best stat line in that game, but how she was able to handle the pressure. The pieces are in place, Kyle, and there's still 10 conference games left to go, but everyone did have their role. MJ Bruno from the defensive side of things, TMC as they like to call her from outside. The three-point shot is going to be so crucial for the Lady Grizz on an offensive side of things, but that was a glimpse into the best version that they can be, and the best version they can be, I still think, is good enough to win the Big Sky.
100%. Well, it was an exciting weekend in Missoula, and we've got an exciting show for you here to wrap it all up. Coming up next, Riley will catch up with head coach Travis DeCure and Joe Pridgeon from the men's side, and after that, acting head coach Nate Harris from the Lady Grizz will also join me to talk about the last game. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back on the Grizzly Insider.
Welcome back to Grizzly Insider, sponsored by Albertsons Safeway.
And welcome back to the Grizzly Insider. Good vibes here in Missoula this last week because the Grizz continued their dominance over the Cats here at home. We're here with head coach Travis DeCure to talk all about it, and a guy that knows about beating the Bobcats well. 15-5 now as the head coach. And coach, you've been around the block. We've both done this now a while, but it probably doesn't get old, the feeling of beating the rivals and getting the whole community behind you like that.
No, never gets old. One of the funnest parts is after the victory, going over to the student section and kind of celebrate communicating with them. So, fun weekend.
Well, tell us about that from the student section and then going into the locker room. I kept you for a couple minutes on the court, but that allowed your guys to really maybe fill up their water bottles a bit. So just talk about the celebration and really all the hard work that you guys put in to be able to enjoy a moment like that. Hopefully everyone gets to for a little bit.
We did that a couple years ago on the road. Didn't expect it. Home game, typically for me, I'd like to save the water for the conference tournament or, regular season championship. But our guys, it was an emotional build-up into that game. A lot more built around us and where we are and how we've grown and the ups and downs of the season up to this point. And so to get over the hump on that weekend and play the way we played, I think the guys are ultra excited.
How has this year maybe been different, Coach? I mean, we've talked about the day and change of college basketball, how it just changes, right? And you're putting a roster together year by year and trying to get these guys on the same page, then excel, play at a championship level. How has this team either surprised you or just you've enjoyed the most of how you've gotten to this point and clearly sitting in a good spot going forward?
They've surprised me a lot, good and bad, right? And I think they surprise themselves as much, if not more. And I just think it's the ups and downs, the unexpected, right? A lot of these guys have never played together. A lot of these guys really don't know enough about one another to go to battle and win close basketball games or handle adversity. And so we're still growing in that area. Especially when you mix older guys with younger guys that may not have as much experience, but they're talented. And so we're still growing, but it's been fun.
You guys now 6-1 in games decided by 5 points or fewer. You have that winning combination late. But just talk to us about maybe the X's and O's from the game against Montana State. You guys really took care of the basketball well, efficient on the offensive end, and obviously defensively made the plays that you needed to. So what was key as far as the execution?
Well, it's a different prep than the Wilson Conference. Just the way they play defense is completely different, the entire conference. Some teams may switch ball screens, but no one really switches everything. And so when you play defense that way, your goal is to get the offense to be stagnant, stand around, play ISO ball. And so we found some ways to get movement. We found some ways maybe to get some matchups that could work in our favor if guys could get going. And fortunately, we had a couple guys get going.
Yeah, certainly. 77-70 win. Kai Johnson sparked back in the starting lineup. 25 points for him in the game. Coach, now you sit at 6-2. This season goes by so quickly that we're at the halfway point of the conference schedule. So how do you feel on where you sit, where you're at in the rest of the league? And we know it's going to be a wild finish, but you guys are in a good spot.
Yeah, I feel good. I think, for me, mostly, I'm always paying attention to our road record more than anything. And if we can win a good portion of the road games, then we always know we have a chance. The other thing, too, that if you go on the road and beat some of the better teams, that you've got a chance to win in the conference tournament. And then the home games are the one that give you a chance. If you take care of business at home, then you got a chance to win a championship potentially.
Well, that's one thing the Grizz certainly have done. They've won 10 of their 11 games this year, 23-4 in the past 2 seasons. Coach, a preview of the weekend ahead, and in particular on Thursday against Portland State, a team you guys are right there with, 2nd and 3rd in the Big Sky standings. So give us the preview of the week ahead and how important, obviously, it'll be to protect home court.
Talented team, tough team. I think they've found themselves going into conference, which what a lot of us tend to do when you play a tough schedule. They've changed their lineup. They've changed a little bit in terms of how they play because they're playing bigger. And there's some guys that were playing a lot of minutes from earlier in the year that aren't playing as much now. So that means they've tightened up their rotations. So the best defense in the league. Holding teams in the 20s from the three-point line and under 40% from the floor. So if you can't score, you can't win. And so I think that the most important thing is finding ways to get good shots and take care of the ball.
Well, it should be a great one on Thursday. This Grizzly team, certainly fun to watch. Coach DeCure, ready to chase another Big Sky championship. Thanks so much for the time. Best of luck this weekend.
Thank you. Go Grizz.
All right, we'll talk with one of those senior stars and Joe Pridgeon when we return on the Grizzly Insider.
Welcome back to Grizzly Insider, sponsored by Albertson Safeway.
And welcome back to the Grizzly Insider. The Grizz with a massive win over their rivals Montana State. Just got done talking with Coach DeCure. Now we pivot and talk with one of the senior stars. It's Joe Pridgeon, one of the transfers that came in this year. You got your first taste of this rivalry. But Joe, just first off, how are you doing? How did it feel to come out victorious in that game on Saturday night?
Man, I'm good. Thanks for having me here. Saturday was awesome, man. Missoula really showed up. They were 6-man when we needed it, and they helped us get a win. It was awesome.
What was the build-up like for someone that has not been in this rivalry before. We've talked to you before. You're an adopted Montanan now, but to play in that for the first time and to hear about it from the coaching staff and really other players, teammates, and maybe the community leading up to it, what were your expectations and how did it live up to it?
The expectations were high. There's a lot of build-up, a lot of cameras, a lot of attention, a lot of questions being asked, a lot of seeing how I felt about it. So yeah, the build-up was definitely good, and got to the game and it definitely lived up to the hype. So.
Well, for you, just from an execution standpoint, individually and from a team standpoint, what worked out well? What made you guys get out to that double-digit lead and obviously hang on for the 7-point win? But what did you like most about what happened between the lines?
I think taking care of the ball. We talked about it, no turnovers that game, and then just being aggressive on defense. Forcing a couple turnovers on their end, and then when we really got rolling, just being able to find the mismatch. They did a lot of switching, so we were able to take advantage of that, and we got some good looks.
And give us the state of the team right now, because when you guys all come together, this is a very close team, despite everyone kind of coming from all over the place, and you guys have come together really well. You're in a good spot, 6-2 in Big Sky play.
Yep.
How has it really developed throughout the course, maybe of the season? If you guys have been this cohesive unit and gotten better as the seasons went on?
I think the team's mindset right now is, we're really good. That's what I think everyone in the locker room believes. And like you said, there's 9 guys coming together, and we're able to feel like we're really good because of the way we're coached, the way our seniors and the leaders of our team approach the game every day. Shout out to them, shout out to the coaching staff. I think we feel like we're in a pretty good spot. I feel like we, as a team, could be at a better spot, but it's just how basketball goes. So we're just waiting for March to become a problem.
Amazing to think that this week will be the halfway point of the Big Sky Conference schedule. As we chat with Joe Pridgeon, one of 5 seniors for the Grizz in the rotation. All of you over 100 games of college basketball experience, and your journey, Joe, is just fascinating. On your 4th different school here at the Division I level, and we're all so lucky that Montana was your final stop. For those that maybe don't know your story, what really drew you into Montana, and obviously having this be just a match made in heaven for your final year?
Yeah, most definitely. For a lot of people who don't know, my wife is originally from Montana, so that played a big role in me being able to come to the state and see what it's about. The state itself, I love the outdoors, the mountains, the rivers. It's all awesome. It's what I'm about. So that pulled me in. Coming to the university, it was really just the culture, the winning culture, a family-oriented culture that drew me in big time, and I felt like it was a place where I could just go and thrive, and it's been coming to light. So
yeah, I would say thrive would be a perfect word to describe your season so far, Joe. And you talk about what you balance not only on the court and being a student athlete, but going back home and being a dad, being a husband as well. What's the most rewarding aspect of that for you when you go home to your family and maybe have the chill days like after the big win to celebrate with them afterwards? But how do you balance everything? What's the most rewarding part for it?
It's definitely a challenge. You're always on go. You got to make sure all the little stuff is locked down tight so you can be successful in both worlds. I feel like the most rewarding part is, the pleasure of being a dad, you know what I mean? The pleasure of being, someone your teammates can count on every day. I feel like I hold a lot of pride in that, and, I try to handle it well, but I feel like that's the most rewarding.
I tell you what, being a teammate on the court and then being a teammate back at home, always so important for a new dad as well. And Joe, final question for you, and I know there's still a lot of season left to go, but when you have the visions of how you want your college career to end, what are some of those visions like, and how does this team get to the finish line at the end of March?
Yeah, obviously Big Sky Championship is, obviously the goal for me personally and the team. A trip to the NCAA tournament is something I've always wanted, playing college basketball. Seeing the way I've seen the season ending is just, my teammates hugging each other, just a good camaraderie, and that's basically it.
Yeah, cutting down the nuts would be pretty sweet in Boise as well. Well, one thing about it, Joe Pridgeon's had a great start to the season, and he'll be in the mix for the Grizz. As we continue on the Grizzly Insider next, we'll switch gears and talk with the Lady Grizz, Kyle Hansen, while acting head coach Nate Harris.
Welcome back to Grizzly Insider, sponsored by Albertson Safeway.
And welcome back to the Grizzly Insider. Great stuff from the Grizz men's program with Riley early on. And now we're joined by acting head coach Nate Harris of the Montana Lady Grizz. First of all, Nate, thank you so much for being here. And, big game, obviously, against Montana State this last week and came down to the very, very bitter end. But you have to be proud of how your girls fought back in that one against the top team in the Big Sky.
No, absolutely. I was really proud of their effort. I mean, to be down 12 and come back. And, again, before the game, if you had told us, hey, you're going to have a layup with 4 seconds left to try to win the game, we would have probably taken it. But, again, really proud of the kids, really proud of the way they battled. battled, and really gave themselves a shot after having to fight back and having to find their way against a really, really good basketball team.
I remember when we talked at halftime, you mentioned MSU was doing a good job at getting you guys out of your system a little bit. You guys were weathering their pressure pretty well, and then obviously kind of in that third quarter they were able to get some distance, but what changed that allowed that comeback to come back? How were your girls able to kind of settle down and start to slowly come back? Obviously, Avery-Waddington, big game, but it seemed like as a unit everyone started to kind of be on the same page.
Yeah, I think it started with Mac. I think Mac did a great job of understanding what we wanted to get. The third quarter, we had a plan. We just got outside of it a little bit. Kids got a little bit anxious, a little bit jumpy, and so we had some stuff where maybe we had something a little different drawn up, and we just didn't quite get there. But again, we have to do a better job coaching them and helping them understand. And in the fourth quarter, they did a great job being like, okay, this lineup's in, we want to look for this. This lineup's in, we want to look for this, and we were able to pair that with some stops on the defensive end and give ourselves a chance down the stretch. But again, I think that starts with Mac, obviously her ability to handle their pressure and get us into what we wanted to get into, and then filters down. Avery had some unbelievable plays. I thought that Danny's leadership and just her passing, and she was back to being Danny on the glass, and so it was a true team effort. But I think it started with our point guards and our ability to get us into what we wanted to get into in that fourth quarter.
Obviously, you never want to lose, right? But when you lose a game like that, then you can take away some positives. Like in your mind, what were some positives as you're about to kind of hit the back half of Big Sky play?
I thought we had some great stretches, again, of offensively, of sharing the ball. I mean, we had 21 assists on 24 made shots. So again, we shot the three well down the stretch. We were able to defend the way we wanted to for the most part. Had a few breakdowns that we need to clean up. But again, I think we're moving closer to finding a really strong identity of who we are and how we're going to win basketball games. And to be honest, I think that's what some of the better teams in the league have done a great job. You know what NAU is going to be night in and night out. You know what Montana State is going to be night in and night out. And I think that we're moving that direction where we're going to have a really strong identity of this is how we win basketball games.
So kind of 10,000 foot view, looking at 3-5 in the Big Sky, very tough non-conference slate before that. Just kind of your overall assessment of the team right now and where things are at, and going toe to toe with the number one team in the league. But then now you got a whole lot of season in front of you before Boise.
Yeah, I mean, I like where we're heading. We can't let last weekend, although it was a great opportunity, a great thing to play close with them. Like, that doesn't matter. We need to win basketball games, and we can't let a loss become a highlight of our season. We need to close with a bunch of wins and close with continuing to play better basketball and continue to, again, we know what we're capable of, but we have to do the work. Playing good basketball is hard. It's a little bit elusive, and so we just have to continue to get better there and play better and better basketball and make ourselves a problem when we get to March.
No doubt about it. And the road begins this week as you get to finally play the final two teams you haven't seen yet in Big Sky play, with Sacramento State and Portland State obviously starting with PSU on Thursday. So just kind of give us a 10,000 foot view of their programs, kind of where they're at and what you like about the matchups between these two teams.
Yeah, I know. We're excited to get back out and play basketball again. And the great thing is you have to go play well. I think I said it in the postgame, like, Portland State does not care that we played a close game with Montana State. They're prepared to try to beat us, and we've got to do the same. I think Portland State has some big wins on the year. Sacramento State, they're always dangerous, especially at home. They slow the game down, make it a war a little bit. So we're gonna have to be our best. We're gonna have to get better this week in practice, and then go down there and really get after two teams they don't care that we played a close game against the number one team. They want to come out and beat us, and so we've got to be prepared for that level of intensity and go right back at them.
No doubt about it. Well, 10 games left in the conference season for the Montana Lady Grizz. Acting head coach Nate Harris here with us. Nate, thanks so much for joining us, and good luck this week.
Thank you. Go Grizz.
Absolutely. Well, coming up, Riley and I will recap the show up next.
Welcome back to Grizzly Insider, sponsored by Albertson Safeway.
Well, as we wrap things up on the Grizz Insider, another big homestand for the men this week as they kind of turn the page in the second half of conference play and finally wrap up having seen every team in this league.
It's crazy, Kyle, how fast the conference season goes, and yet Sacramento State, Portland State, the last two teams the Grizz will have to face. And this is a big one. When looking at the Big Sky standings, we touched on it with both of the head coaches, but with where Montana's at on the men's side of things, this is a massive game against the Vikings. If they can win that, they really establish themselves in the top two and try and end that long championship drought that's been since the early 80s, since they went this long without a Big Sky title. This would go a long ways getting a good sweep, and as Coach Secure said, taking advantage of home court.
No doubt about it. And of course, Lady Grizz are on the road this week as well, as the second half of conference play is officially here. We're going to take a few weeks off for the Grizzly Insider, but we will be back after the next Brawl of the Wild meeting. So until then, we'll see you then, and have a great weekend.